Welcome to all of you. I'm really delighted to have you here. My name again is Kevin Barrett. I am with True North Professional Development here in Seattle. And today we are going to spend some time talking about success-minded leadership and really what makes someone kind of a success-minded leader. So let's dive right in. And thank you all for joining us. And by the way, just from a the way we work standpoint, Mary is here with us to be our my support today. She will be monitoring chat. If you do have questions, feel free to pop those into chat. We can also have you unmute. We've got a relatively small group, so if you feel like unmuting and asking your question, and feel free to do that at any point as we go along today. So, and thanks to Mary for managing all that. All right, well, so let's talk about our agenda for today. We are talking about success-minded leadership, and we're going to first of all define what that is. We're going to talk about current workplace dynamics, kind of what's the environment out there like based on some statistics and some surveys that have been done. What are some of the current leadership dynamics? So if you are leading people, or even leading, not a people manager, but leading in your organization, you're going to recognize some of those things for sure. And then we'll spend the bulk of the time today talking about building success-minded leadership and essential skills and practices. And I've got a couple videos that I want to share with you as well about some of those practices. So it's going to be an action-packed agenda here, and would love your participation along the way. So feel free again to drop a question into chat or a comment, and to also unmute if you prefer. Mary will be monitoring the chat. All right, so let's get started. Let's define success-minded leadership. So what is success-minded leadership? Here is how we define it at True North Professional Development. The first thing is that the manager or the leader is highly engaged. That means they're involved in what's going on, right? They are not someone who's just going to kind of sit back and just accept things the way they are. They're going to really be engaged in what's going on. They're going to be engaged in the communication of what's going on, and they're going to be engaged with their team, managing them, doing one-on-ones, really being a leader within that organization. Secondly, they are self-directed. They don't need to have a manager above them telling them what to do. They've got a vision for what they want to do and what they want to accomplish, and they have passion about getting that done, and they're going to persevere. They don't need to have somebody guiding them, right? Certainly, if they have that, all the better, but they're going to take the bull by the horns, all right? They're innovative, so they're always looking for kind of new ways to make things happen, right? And so how do you get done what you need to get done in an innovative way? How can we streamline things? How can we have better processes and procedures? How can we be more efficient and more effective at what we do? They're accountable. So they are not one that's going to pass the buck. If there is a responsibility for something that happened, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing, they're going to take responsibility for that, right? They're not going to play the blame game. They are going to take responsibility, all right? Next, produces consistently remarkable results. And so this is a really important one for us. It's all about making sure that what is produced is the highest quality level that can possibly be done, given what the project is or the task, given what the team is, and the talents of the team. It is just going to be consistently remarkable. All right. And lastly, they're going to embrace self-reflection. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more a little bit later here, but self-reflection is such an important thing. And if you've attended any of our lunch and learns over the past couple of years, you know that if I'm not bringing it up, Mary's bringing it up, right? We're talking very consistently about doing self-reflective things, whether it's a journal or whether it's just spending some time thinking about what's going on and how we can be better. that is such an important thing, a quality of somebody who is a success-minded leader. All right. All right. So with that, let's dive in and talk a little bit more about what's going on in the workplace. There's a lot of data out there, particularly coming out of the pandemic. There's been a lot of discussion and various different surveys that are going on about what's happening in the workplace right now. All right. So quiet quitting, you may have heard about this, right? So quiet quitting is this. Quiet quitters continue to fulfill their primary responsibilities, but they're less willing to engage in activities known as citizenship behaviors. No more staying late, showing up early, or attending non-mandatory meetings. This is some research that was done by Professors Anthony Klotz and Mark Bellino. And they go into great detail about this. And particularly, again, coming out of the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of workers. They're just going to put in enough, to get them by, but you're not going to see a lot of workers that are going to go above and beyond at this point. Lots of reasons for that. But a lot of it tied into kind of dissatisfaction with their manager. And you'll see a few more statistics here that'll back some of this up. All right. All right. So this is a Gallup survey that was done in the fall of 2022 and is still relevant here. So you see that according to Gallup, 50% of the American workforce at this point are quiet quitters, and the rest is 50%. Now, that rest breaks down this way, or the quiet quitters, I should say, break down this way. So actually, I take that back. It is the rest. The rest is broken down through 32% who are engaged, and then 18% who are actively disengaged. That means they're completely disengaged from what's going on. They don't particularly care. All right. The ratio of that, and this is a very interesting statistic from Gallup, is 1.8 to 1, actively the engaged to actively disengaged. And that is the lowest in almost a decade. So the largest number of actively disengaged employees. That makes our jobs as leaders that much more difficult, right, to be able to manage. All right. All right. Also, a full 68% of the American workforce is actively disengaged or a quiet quitter. So that's over 2/3 of the American workforce are just kind of floating along or actively disengaged, right? They just don't care. All right. Again, huge challenges for us as leaders. All right. All right, so let's look at the leadership dynamics. What is that causing, and maybe what is some of the cause of that? All right, so leaders and managers are disengaged, and Gallup says they're more disengaged than they've been in a very long time. So since mid-2021, it is down 7 points. Huge drop in how well managers and leaders are engaged in what they need to get done. The steepest declines were being provided clear expectations. One of the things that the survey talks about is that there aren't clear expectations coming from the top of the organization. And so more and more managers and leaders are trying to figure out, what am I supposed to be doing, right?
Hey, Kevin,
yeah.
you're talking about mid-level management in this scenario, then?
This is managers and really in any organization, but primarily corporate world.
Okay.
Okay. So that makes it very challenging, right, for managers, because if their bosses aren't really telling them what the focus is, what's the vision of what needs to get done, that can be a bit of a challenge. And for an increasing number of managers, that means they're disconnecting really from what's going on. The second thing in the steepest declines was having someone who encourages their development, right? Does somebody really have my back, and are they interested in making sure that I'm getting my development needs met, that I'm getting the training that I need to be able to do the job, right? All right. And then the heaviest toll is pandemic-driven economic workplace and mental and physical health challenges. There's been a lot of that has come out of the pandemic, and that has created additional disengagement here. All right. So this has been a significant increase in manager burnout since mid 2021. Now, if you look at organizations and the way that organizations have been set up over the last 10 to 15 years in particular, there has been a lot of kind of cutting out of middle managers. And so that has created management people that have to manage a lot more than they had to manage in the past. And in fact, may have teams reporting to them that really aren't within their expertise, teams reporting to them that kind of the function of that team barely matches the other functions of their team. We're seeing that more and more and more, and that is creating a lot of burnout. All right. All right. So some additional things to share with related to this. So leaders and managers are disengaged. It's creating a growing disconnect between managers and employees, right? And so if the manager doesn't care, right, why should the employee care? So it's kind of a little bit back and forth in terms of how it's creating this disengagement for both groups. All right. All right. Very, very clearly, this is data from the Center for Creative Leadership that leaders and managers are not equipped. So 50% of managers are rated as ineffective. The Center for Creative Leadership actually went to organizations and they said, hey, can we look at your performance review data? We don't need names, but we want to see what role people are and how they are rated. Well, 50% of managers across the country were rated as ineffective at being able to be a manager. What feeds into that? Well, Center for Creative Leadership grabs some additional data. 60% of managers say that they've never received training when they transitioned into a leadership role. It was basically, hey, you're great at this. We want you to move in and manage these people. And people have taken that. But of course, when we take the best salesperson and make them the sales manager, or the best accountant and make them the accounting manager, those skill sets are very, very different, right? Just because you've succeeded as a salesperson or accountant or in various other functions in HR, for example, that doesn't mean that you're going to be great at managing people, right? And so 60% of managers say they never received training when they transitioned into a role. 20% of first-time managers are doing a poor job according to their direct reports. So again, Center for Creative Leadership, they surveyed a bunch of employees. 20% of those first-time managers are doing a poor job according to the people that report to them. And then lastly, 26% of first-time managers don't feel that they are ready to lead others, right? They maybe didn't get a good sense of what it means to lead people, right? And now they're kind of in a sink or swim situation, right? Think about what that means in terms of performance management of those managers, right? A lot of organizations are saying they're not cutting it, right? We're going to demote them back into their role, or we're going to let them go entirely, right? All of that is creating additional time and money to the organization because they're not really investing in making sure that those leaders and those managers have what they need to do to be able to be successful within the role that they've been promoted into. All right.
Hey, Kevin, can I
Yeah.
ask you a question?
Yeah.
A lot of times what happens, at least I've seen in the companies that I've been working with, is that when somebody is moved into management and doesn't succeed at management, that they can no longer go backwards down into the position they were in.
Yeah.
That position has been filled, or they're seen as a failure, so they let them go.
Yeah, exactly. And so that creates all kinds of issues, right? It creates some negative issues with that employee, but it also creates hiring issues, right? It costs lots and lots of money to go and re-recruit. And if you've given somebody 90 days and then you're telling them, hey, you're not cutting it as a manager, we're going to let you go, right? They had some kind of a success that made you promote them into that role. And now you're back in the boat of having to try to find someone else to be the manager of that team, right? Which can involve loads and loads of time and expense for that. So yeah, absolutely, Mary. All right, let's talk about a couple of other little factors that play in here. So Microsoft Work Labs did some research, and they have determined that really since the pandemic, new hires' reliance on managers for onboarding support is up 20% compared to before the pandemic, and reliance on peers for this support has dropped 15%. Now, keep in mind, we have, lots of different kind of hybrid workplaces as well, right? Where some of the team might be working remote, some of it may be in the office. The manager's attention is split. It's certainly more challenging for managers to be able to manage people that are working from home as well. And so in order to make sure that things get done right, more and more managers are kind of taking on that role of onboarding support for the new employee, right? So that is really kind of splitting the time that the manager has to be able to do their job effectively. All right. All right. Here's a great survey. This was Wiley did this survey. They surveyed 5,000 employees working in a hybrid workplace. And when we say hybrid, that means at least part of the team is at home working and part of the team is in the office, right? Well, this has created some real challenges here as well. So 7 in 10 of the employees that they surveyed said that they're struggling to maintain a sense of camaraderie with their teammates. 67% are feeling isolated from their team. 36% find it harder to effectively communicate with their team, right? So you look at all of those three things, and those fall squarely into what we would hope our leadership is managing, right? Whether that's in a in-office environment or in a hybrid environment, or whether you've got everybody working from home, right? But that's a huge challenge now for leaders to be able to manage is all of this going on, right? How do you keep the team engaged when they're all over the place, right? And what kinds of team events or various different social kind of things can you do to pull everybody together when maybe some of the folks that you've got on your team are completely in a different geographic location, right? So this again, adding all kinds of challenges to us as leaders and as managers, right? So Gallup says there are just seismic shifts that are going on here. If you look at the results of their survey, so management engagement is down, manager burnout is up, clarity of expectations is down, manager development is down, coaching conversations are down, employee engagement is down, right? And so this creates just some incredible challenges for leaders and managers. In fact, Gallup said in their summary, managers can only keep employees informed and engaged if organizational priorities are clear and well communicated as changes occur. Fuzzy or confusing messages from the top only makes managers' lives more stressful, right? So there's a lot sitting on us as leaders and managers to be able to manage in general, right? But since the pandemic, lots of other things that are coming. We talk about a success-minded leader being engaged. That means I have to be engaged in finding out what am I supposed to be doing? What's my team supposed to be doing? A lot of us shy away from that because we're nervous about rocking the boat at all, right? And so that's a skill that really can be developed. All right. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some things that we can do to really help us, some essential skills and practices that we can help to build ourselves into success-minded leadership. The first thing here is really understanding the work environment. So what do your customers expect? What does your employer expect? And what do your employees expect, right? A success-minded leader is really going to get to the bottom of what's going on in the work environment. That means that I am going to ask my boss, hey, I need to have some direction here, right? Remember that one of the qualities that we talked about is that they're independent and they can do work on their own, right? But that doesn't mean that we don't find out what we need to find out, right? We need to know what our customers are expecting, whether that's internal or external customers, right? The better that we can do that, the better we are going to be at being a success-minded leader. And then really important here, what do my employees expect, right? Only you know your environment and only you know your employees. It's really behooves you to really have a good understanding of what their expectations are and really even sharing your own expectations as well. All right. All right. Second category of this is that we want to understand and master success mindsets. So what is it that make successful people successful? I'll talk more about that here in a bit. And then how do you apply that in your role, right? And so really looking at role models, how do they manage to be successful in what they do, right? And so really getting a good understanding of that. Certainly you can get that from lots of business books that are out there. There's a lot of documented information that can help you to do that. And I'll share with you some things that can help here in a moment. All right. Third, understanding how to lead yourself, right? So this is where that self-reflection really comes in. What gets in your way? Why does it get in your way, right? Why does that continually happen to me, that I get myself into that situation, right? And how can you transform that? I used to say, those obstacles, right? Move them out of the way. Well, reality is we can't always move the obstacle out of the way, but maybe we can transform the situation so that we can work our way around that obstacle in one way or another, right? So really important that we understand ourselves, how we operate. Why does that person drive me crazy, right? Why don't I get along with my boss? Why does this situation make me stressed, right? And then really getting an understanding of how you can manage that more effectively going forward. All right. All right. Next one here, that is to understand how to lead others. So I really believe that you cannot understand how to lead others unless you really understand yourself and how to lead yourself, right? Because you're going to make lots and lots of mistakes. Not to say that you won't make mistakes when you understand yourself better too, but it really eases things up so that you can build trust, right? So how do you build trust between you and your employees and within your department? How do you delegate more effectively, right? I see this all the time with managers that they don't delegate because it takes too much time to be able to do that, or I'm not going to be satisfied with the work that I get, right? And so learning how to be able to delegate more effectively, all right? How do you support your team? What's the best way to do that? And when we look at teams, what is important is for us to understand the individuals that are on the team, right? So if I'm going to effectively support members of the team, I really have to understand how can I support each one individually, right? That's a lot of work. And the larger the team you've got, the more that is a difficult job, right? And in fact, you might have to have some key people to go to within the teams to be able to do that, to be able to most effectively support the team. All right.
So one of the things that I have found, Kevin, is when you're providing support to your team, is that it's not equal, it's equitable.
Mm.
Meaning not every team member needs the same support. And as a leader, how do you determine that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's where the understanding yourself plays a huge part in that, right? So that you can understand how to be gentle with yourself, how to give yourself grace, right? And that teaches you how to be gentle with another employee, how to give them grace, how to look for those things. I see you wrote there trust and competencies. Absolutely, right? How do I build that within my team? So great point there, Mary. Thank you. All right. So let's talk a little bit about how can you maximize your chances of success. All right. So we're going to dig into that a little bit here. All right. So we've already talked about the concept here, right, of those 6 categories of things for maximizing success
Mhm.
leadership, right?
So Kevin, can I ask you
Yeah.
one more question real
Oh
quick?
yeah, absolutely.
So when because you're doing one-on-one coaching like I am,
Yeah.
and so what do you think the biggest challenge is that most people are facing like right now?
I, I think and this actually applies whether it's now or even a few years ago. I think the biggest challenge that people have is being able to gauge um, the relationship with their team members. In other words, finding that balance between being too friendly with them and not being friendly enough with them, being too lenient with them and not being lenient enough. And to your point, Mary, earlier, right, where that varies person to person sometimes, right? And so it is that equitable that we're trying to drive for. And so I see a lot of managers who are really struggling at finding kind of what is that balance, right? And I talk about this a lot with clients that it's not a good thing to be, um, super, super friendly with your employees. At the same time, you don't want to be aloof either, right? And so it's finding that balance. What's the right spot for you to be in? And the challenge with finding that balance is really what goes into the building of trust within your organization, right? Because if you're super friendly with maybe 1 or 2 on the team and not so friendly with others on the team, that can be a huge thing to throw off the trust balance within your organization.
Christine says sometimes it's really tough to find that balance, and especially if you've come from um, being part of the team and now you're leader of the team.
You bet.
It's
Yeah,
how do I redefine my role with you?
absolutely. And that is a huge challenge for anybody that's being promoted uh, into that position, right? Because they had this relationship with others on the team, and it's vastly different. Your skill set has to be vastly different, but even the way that you relate with people has to be vastly different, right? And so people will pick up very, very quickly on any favoritism that you're showing, anything where it's you're extending favors to a particular person on the team, and that can really dive bomb trust. And we'll talk more about that here in a moment. All right. So thank you, Mary, for that question. Uh, so we talked a little bit at the beginning here about these 6 things, right? So working on those aspects, being highly engaged, being self-directed, being innovative, being accountable, producing consistently remarkable results, and embracing self-reflection, all of those are going to add up to really, really helping. I love that, Sue. Friendly, but not familiar. Love that. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about some of these things, these best practices for us, right? And so I apologize. This got a little warped here, so I will try to kind of shift it within the slide, but I don't know if how well I'll do. There you go, a little bit better. All right. So when I talk to managers and leaders within organizations, and as Mary indicated, I do a lot of coaching. One of the things that I talk to them about is the conversion, what I call the conversion layer, right? There might be all kinds of turmoil going on above. There might be all kinds of turmoil going on to the right. But a really good manager and leader excels at being able to create that conversion level between their team and the turmoil around them, right? To keep people focused, to keep people to, stay on task. Really important, right? We are in a world in which there is a lot of drama, and the drama is valued, right? Look at any, reality television show and you can see that, right? And for a lot of our employees, it's kind of the same thing, that drama right? And so when there's turmoil and drama around the team, it's very, very difficult to keep people focused. But really success-minded leaders excel at being able to do that, keep people focused, make people realize that all that stuff that's going on, that doesn't really affect us, right? That here's what we need to get done. Part of this is also really having a good understanding of what your vision is. What is it that you and your team are supposed to create, right? All right. So conversion layer, very, very important here. All right. We talked earlier about trust. I absolutely love this quote. Paul Zak, this is the founding director of the Center of Neuroeconomics. They do a lot of work about trust in organizations and building trust. And he says this: trust is a leading indicator for performance. If trust is higher, performance will be higher, right? And so really think for yourself, if you're a leader, do you trust the people that work for you, and do they trust you? And what can you do as a leader to be able to build trust? A lot of that is building solid communication with people, right? Being able to have people feel safe within your team, right? To be able to say what they need to say, right? I've told the story many times of a team that I got promoted into my boss's job, and there were 5 members of the team. My boss had gone into another part of the organization, and all 5 of the people that reported to him, well, there were 6 of us. Actually, yeah, I was one of those 5, right? The other 4 people went off to do other things within the organization too, right? So I came into the role as a person who had to hire 5 people, and I hate hiring. I really detest hiring. It just is aggravating to me, right? So I don't like to do it. Well, think about having to hire 5 people, right? But I came to the realization that this gave me an opportunity to really find people who matched, or actually didn't match, but complemented my skill set, right? Um, and so I was able to look at and go, okay, I have some weaknesses in these areas. I really need somebody to be able to do that, right? I'm only moderately good at these things, so it would be good if I had somebody who had those kinds of skills, right? And so over a period of a month or so, I ended up hiring 5 people, and they came on at various different times. But the day that I had them all together, uh, I did a team building organization or team building activity, right? It was a day-long event, and we were going to talk about kind of how the team was going to operate. We were going to talk about kind of what our goals were, what's the vision for this team, all of that. And as I got those folks together, I said to them this: I want you to be brutally honest with me, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you. All right. And that worked really, really well until 2 days later when 2 of them came to me and were brutally honest to me. And my initial thought was, who the heck are you? Right. Uh, I'm the boss, too bad. That's the way I am. I'm not going to change. All those things that kind of run through our head, right? When somebody is brutally honest with you, right? And so, but I understood, and fortunately I processed that, and I said, okay, yeah, thank you for that feedback. I'll take that feedback on board, and I'm going to work on that, right? Well, I easily could have kind of not done that conversion in my brain, and I could have spit back out, right? But if I said, I'm going to be brutally honest with you, and then I can't take it myself, that's going to really hurt the trust within the organization, within my team, right? As it turns out, that is by far the most efficient, effective, really fun team to work with, because we told each other the truth, flat out told each other the truth. It wasn't personal, it was business, right? And so it was all about, how can we be a better team? How can we get more done? How can we be more effective at what we do, right? And so anytime that somebody came to me with a comment, or I came to them, it wasn't taken personally because we knew we didn't mean it personally, right? That is an environment that it takes time to build. And so it's really important that we kind of set that up so that we can build trust within our team and with our organization. So again, a great quote. If you Google Paul Zak, you'll find all kinds of stuff. He's written several books. Really, really terrific information that he shares about building trust within organizations. All right.
Kevin, one of the things that I have found about being open, honest, and transparent is to address the fact that not everybody sees things the same way or experiences things the same way. And
Yeah.
so to talk towards my intention versus their reality. It was never my intention to do that. I'm sorry you felt that way, because you have to acknowledge the fact that they see it and feel it that way.
Absolutely.
But then explaining where you're coming from.
Absolutely. I think that's really important, Mary. Thank you for adding that in. All right. So we're continuing on. We're talking about best practices, right, to be a success-minded leader. So we mentioned earlier, and I want to go into this a little bit deeper, we talked a little bit about self-reflection, right? And so in the way that we look at self-reflection is that it is an essential habit. If you're going to be a success-minded leader, it's really, really important that you're looking at yourself, you're looking at what you do, you're looking at what motivates you, you're looking at why does that person drive me crazy, right? Or how can I be more effective in communicating with this person who is aloof with me, right? Yeah, perspective versus reality. Love it. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so really important to kind of get a sense for that. So I want to share with you a little video here. I'll talk a little bit about some of the research that we have done around this for our Success Minded Leader program. But I want to share with you, we do interviews quite often with folks that have gone through our program, and I wanted to share with you an interview, a little portion of an interview that I did with Patty Hearns, who is one of our graduates. And here she's just going to talk about self-reflection. And actually, we've got a couple of other folks behind it. The video is a little bit raw, but I think you'll get the point about kind of the impact of self-reflection. So here we go. This is about maybe 2 minutes long.
At the beginning, it was difficult for me. Matter of fact, there was one activity I remember us doing that I had the hardest time grasping how to do. And it really was a bit of just removing yourself from a situation, looking at it from the outside that, wow, do I use this almost every day? Yes. As a matter of fact, when I talk about the perseverance, that was one of my hangups, is it was hard for me to step back and look at it through non-emotional eyes, because I am a feeler. I feel things. So it was such a great opportunity. The self-reflection also not only helped me to slow down for myself, but in many regards, it helped me to pull back and say, am I really approaching this program or this project or this situation with a balanced mindset? Because I am a feeler. Historically, I'd be running forward with just feelings rather than with the facts, if that makes sense. So it really caused me not just to slow down and look at myself, but slow down and look at everything.
It's really impacted me because I'm able to now take a look at how different things have transpired, and without it becoming oh gosh, I did this thing wrong, or really dwelling on it. It's really thinking proactively, how did it go? What would I want to do differently? And then even at some points going back to that situation and either addressing it with the individual and kind of getting their feedback on reflecting as well. But really, I think it's just kind of changed what reflection looks like, and that self-reflection looks like for me, and being able to use it as a leadership tool and not just kind of pining over issues that might have occurred.
It's really helped me strip away the emotional responses to why things are happening or why I might feel something is the way it is.
In today's overwhelming business environment, we're all asked to do more than we were yesterday. And the ability to reflect for me has given me that chance each day to identify easy wins to help myself be a better professional without putting more strain on myself.
All right. So I wanted to share this with you because I will tell you, with my coaching clients and folks that are in our program, it's not an easy thing to do, right? And if you've kind of gone through that journey yourself, you know that sometimes it's not very, easy for you to look at yourself and what you did and where did that come from, and hey, where's that voice coming in my head that is making me say this one thing. I always kind of chuckle because you hear folks who are parents who say, I swore to God I would never say that to my kids, and then I heard it coming out of my mouth, right? Self-reflection helps you really understand kind of what drives you. Where did all those things come from for the way that you react? And I love that there's a couple of things in those clips that were about, being able to strip away the emotional part of it and really be able to look objectively at what it is. That's really what self-reflection is all about. All right. That leads us into just talking about the next thing here, which is managing your inner critic, right? We've actually done a lunch and learn on this, and this is just so important. Being able to manage your inner critic that is criticizing you constantly for the things that you're doing, and in many cases can just take you off of what your vision is, or take you out of that trusting situation with your employees, or just create some havoc, right? Some turmoil, some drama. And so being able to manage your inner critic is really, really important to you to become a success-minded leader, to be able to manage yourself and to be able to manage others. All right. So I'm going to share with you one additional video here. And this one I just couldn't resist because there's just a great story in here. This is again from my interview with Patty Hearns. And she talks about her experience in one of our programs, and then what it's meant to her to be able to manage her inner critic more effectively.
I will say that probably the greatest impact on my life, and when I say life, I mean in so many aspects beyond just being a leader, was this inner critic thing. Oh boy, I had never really recognized that there was an inner critic, that I had one, and how powerful that inner critic was. My inner critic was louder than anything else going on around me. And I mean, it took me until the middle of this program to go, oh my gosh, I've got a problem. And through the program, we were encouraged to name it. So I named my inner critic Melba. And I will have verbal conversations with Melba when Melba shows up. So it's not unusual for me to say, Melba, you have no power over me. Get away.
Love it.
And I mean, I remember recently, I'm a singer. I was getting ready to sing. I was standing on the stage, and my inner critic, that Melba, showed up and started putting all this doubt in my mind, which is not rare. It's rare that it shows up in that type of setting. But I literally turned around from the crowd and said, Melba, get out of here. Turned back around, put a smile on my face, and hit it out of the park. So I'm such a believer in this. It's really changed me in a tremendous way and helped me overcome more than just challenges I see in leadership, which shows up a lot. It just in my everyday life, I can put her in her place and kick her to the curb, which is really fun.
It allows you to get more control as well, right?
All the way.
To be authentically you, which is one part of what we really love about having that as a part of the program.
Right. And I did find that inner critic was what was slowing me down. That's why the perseverance. Now, sometimes it may have started from an outside source, but it was what my inner critic did with it.
Yeah.
Right. So in telling Melba to get out of here so I can sit down and think logically
so you can actually take that pause.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That pause is so important for me. Yes, I'm such a fast-paced person. I have to pause in order to ensure I'm doing the best that I can do. So yeah, Melba, She's toast.
All right. Pun intended there, Melba toast. But I just think that's just such a great example of how being able to manage your inner critic can really make an impact on you as a leader within any organization. So something to kind of think about. How can you manage that inner critic? All right.
Did you see my little note in chat?
I
You want
did,
to
yes.
name your inner critic something you can say out loud, because one of my
Yes.
clients named her inner critic something you can't say in public. And so she was having conversations that were inappropriate oftentimes out loud. I love
Almost
the
sounds
milk.
like she's got Tourette's, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we do recommend that you name your inner critic and you can talk to that inner critic. And I love that story that she told of turning around on stage and saying, Melba, get out of here. Right. So managing the inner critic, another really good best practice to help you be a success-minded leader. All right. Let me give you a little bit of additional background here. So my organization, we run a leadership curriculum called Success Minded Leader, and we have done interviews with hundreds of leaders at the top of their field. So all of those best practices that I've shared with you here are ones that we've uncovered from these interviews that we've done with hundreds of leaders at the top of their field. What we found in addition to those things was that the path to achievement varied widely among these individuals, but they had something in common, something that we call 9 success mindsets. So they had mastered kind of the 9 success mindsets. So what are those 9 success mindsets? Really important, and I think this is another thing for you to grasp onto. The 9 success mindsets as we see them are vision, passion, perseverance, creativity, compassion, risk-taking, self-motivation, seizing opportunities, and positive thinking, right? And so if you can really get a good understanding of these mindsets and how they play out for you, and whether they are strengths or opportunities for you, that can be really important. We also focus very heavily on what we call the big 3. So most important out of those 9 success mindsets are being able to have a vision about what it is you want to accomplish, right? And more importantly, or equally importantly, I guess I would say, is sharing that vision with anybody who will listen, right? Having passion about what it is you are doing, right? And if you don't have that passion, then you got to find that passion, find it for that, or maybe that vision is not the thing that you're going to be passionate about, right? And then perseverance. Patty talked a little bit about that in the video. Persevering and being able to accomplish what it is that you need to accomplish. Now, we have a success factors assessment that helps analyze that. And so you can actually get a really good understanding of how those play out for you. That is available on our website, but also available in our Success Minded Leader program as well. If you're interested in any of that, absolutely let me know. All right. Key things for these best practices, kind of if you're going to sum up kind of what they are. One is leading yourself. So transforming the internal obstacles to your leadership. What stops you from doing what you need to do? And how can you transform those obstacles, right? How can you figure out a way to be able to get around those? So leading yourself, really important. Secondly, leading others. So transforming the obstacles blocking others from doing their best work, right? A success-minded leader is going to be able to do that, right? What's in the way of them accomplishing what they need to do, and how can you and they transform those obstacles, all right? All right, so briefly, just a couple of things about our programs. We've got 2 programs, Becoming a Success-Minded Leader, which is for executives, business owners, established directors and managers, and experienced project managers, and our Fast Track to Success program. This one is designed for managers, supervisors, project managers, individual contributors. And what the way that our programs work, they're really structured in 2-week cycles. So they go through about 12 days of structured online learning that might include some self-reflection exercises, video, discussion assignments, reading. It's self-driven. And then during that time, they're applying what they've learned as well. There is a coach review and response. And so to the work that they do in the online portal, one of our success-minded leader coaches then will review that and respond on that, on what they put into the portal, and perhaps give some advice along the way. And then every 2 weeks, we get together for a 2-hour virtual coaching workshop. There we talk about new concepts or group exercises, role plays, team or individual coaching, and training to how to coach effectively, right? So one of the things that I thought was very important for these programs is for people to walk out being able to coach and coach effectively, all right? In addition to that, we repeat that cycle over and over. These are 6-month programs, and so we repeat that structure over and over again. And in addition to that, we ask them to create and implement a success initiative. And so this is something that's going to measurably impact their organization and be able to utilize the things that they're learning along the way to be able to really get off to a good start and a successful start applying the information that they're going through in the program. All right. So I'll just mention quickly, we have 2 programs that are coming up in the spring, begins on April 3rd. So both the Becoming a Success-Minded Leader program and the Fast Track to Success are starting on April 3rd. They run through September 24th. You can check them out at successmindedleader.com. And if you book a 30-minute exploratory consultation, we'll give you a 15% discount off on the program price. You can call me or email me, and I'd be happy to get that set up with you as well. All right. All right. Thank you so much for attending. Let's just do one more thing here, which is Mary. We've got a free lunch and learn coming up in February. These are always on the first Wednesday of the month. And Mary, you're leading the next one. That is called Building and Maintaining Healthy Relationships. So maybe give us a little bit of a preview of that.
So we're going to talk about how our relationships play such an important role in our success in life, because whether you are talking about your relationship with the people around you at work, or whether you're talking about the relationship at home, so many people have been taught over the years incorrectly that you should separate work and home. And the unfortunate thing that mindset does is it doesn't take into the account that we're all human, and that every relationship affects your other relationships. We're all interpersonally connected. And so how do you maintain healthy relationships? And put boundaries around people that need boundaries, and spend time with people that you need to spend time with. So it should be a really interesting class, because we're also going to talk about the fact that oftentimes opposites attract, and we think we got to fix them.
Awesome. That is an awesome topic. Very much looking forward to that, Mary. And of course, I will be there supporting as the moderator for that. If you're interested in that, absolutely go to Soul Canyon's site listed at the bottom, or to the True North Skills site, and you can register for those events now. They are on our websites. Thank you all for attending. I really, really appreciate it. We had a great group, and I'm happy to stick around for any questions if you've got them, but otherwise we are wrapped up for today.